Well, hello everyone. Here to show you that the built-in Genius coloring activity right here is basically that you have right here is an example right here of a television set that I went ahead and drew using say the charcoal pencil, and I can go ahead and pronounce it right here. So far as for built-in and knowing about, I'm like anybody probably say, I'm like yeah that so far with for built-in for built-in, and basically that. Really, I'm like, most of the time, what does that usually mean for like built-in, such as that if we were to think about any electronic products that we may get later on that may have a few of the standard features, like I can remember that back when I was a kid that I seen that a few TVs, like besides the flat screens and the HDs a lot of times that whenever I was much younger, that before I even had a job, actually, that I can remember that I looked at a lot of the TVs, and the way I went and drew this right here, from where I would be standing right here, the way I went and drew it if I were standing about right here and looking at the TV right here, the way I was drawing this, it looks like to me that this is more like maybe a 32-inch, something like that, maybe a 19-inch TV, something like that, but anyway, but basically though that I'll go ahead and color in right here some details, because I can remember that whenever I was in the middle school that I actually want to try this out of knowing about that I would draw TVs, television sets, and what was the reason that I could probably tell anybody that I'm like yeah that whenever I was much younger that I was what's called big in the electronics, such as a number of things I had at home that I like playing with whenever I came home from a hard day at school, and one of those besides maybe like at the Sega Genesis or the Super Nintendo game consoles, it was like anything that was related to TVs and VCRs, tape recorders, a lot of that stuff that I have now, and I keep thinking about. I'm like, yeah, that that you may wonder that did you ever grow out of that? I'm like, yeah, that did you ever get what you've been wanting? And on the hand too, that the basic features for what it includes, such as that a television set with maybe built-in speakers that you have right here. Is like some examples of some speakers right here, and then that right here will be an example right here of a DVD player. And a lot of times anybody that may wonder that, I'm like yeah, with a lot of times with the disc trays that they would be measured at about 4 to 5 inches at length it is, and then and 2 millimeters or something like that width, something like that, and then right here is a VCR. And I can tell anybody here that I thought it would be kind of neat to have a TV with a built-in VCR, because I can remember that back whenever I was a kid that VCRs nowadays that you can't really, unless if you were to go to a shop online or anything like that more likely that you won't be able to find any type of VCR, anything that plays tapes. But like say for a DVD player, I remember whenever DVD players were kind of whenever they were being announced, that I can remember that they were talking about between $50 to maybe $100 and maybe $200 for a type of DVD player, especially if you're going to have like maybe a 3 or 4 disc CD changer that comes say disc tray and stuff. But on your hand, that let's say with the TV and VCR, with the VCR and with the DVD player all built into one set. And like with anybody that may say that they seen them in the stores, and then they may say that about for how much money that they are equal to. And knowing about with me, the way how I drew this right here is like this would have been right here an example right here of me, and I can go ahead and add a little bit more detail right here using a charcoal pencil. But this right here would be kind of an example right here of me, and if I were to be walking around like anybody, like if I were to be maybe in a store, a retail store, and any retail store that more likely would have it, that more likely look at the prices, and a lot of times that they would be equal to, I would say, at least at that time, to at least $200 or $300. And I can remember that whenever I would go into that department and actually look at the TVs and stuff, and it's like, yeah, anybody wonders, I'm like, yeah, that really, that you see something in there that you like, but on the other hand too, I kept thinking about maybe it will be a Christmas present one of these days, something like that. But on the other hand, that knowing about with me though, that if it's a Christmas present or if it's a birthday present, whichever it is. If I can tell anybody here, on my 14th birthday, I actually wanted a go-kart. I actually wanted something that I can drive around. I think a bicycle. I wanted a bicycle and a go-kart whenever I was younger. And other than that, maybe if I can remember writing a birthday list, and I can remember that I would say all constantly, model airplanes and remote control boat. Like a few remote controls that helicopters, stuff like that I already have. But one of those things, of course, would be like anything that's related to like electronics. And I could tell anybody here that really that if there really are what you call like the good boys toys or anything like that, good boy or bad boys toys. I'm like, yeah, if you've been a bad boy, you can't have it. You can't have that. Well, you're gonna have to wait or something like that. But I know. I'm like anybody that may warn her though that a lot of times the girls and then the ladies that they would want the Barbie dolls, and then I'm like that they would want the makeup kits, cosmetic beauty products, jewelry products, stuff like that, and then the boys would want maybe the coloring books and maybe electronics, and then along with maybe the cologne, maybe sometimes cologne or stuff like that, or maybe just I know a few toys that the kids, with most kids, ages 10 and up and maybe 5 and up, that they would maybe want a puzzle or maybe a coloring book or anything like that, anything that they would normally spend their allowance money on. But anyway, talking about is like, for built-in genius, is talking about right here is the type of stuff that you always wanted whenever you were younger, it is, and just knowing about that, that I kept thinking about whenever I would buy a lot of products separately. And then this idea came from like if I were to be going out shopping, in an electronics store and pick out something that I would buy, and then I would say, I'm like, that I have a TV, and then I have a VCR, and then maybe if I want to buy something else, but knowing about that, it would be nice to be able to see something that with all that stuff built in. And a lot of times, if anybody has ever had any type of boom boxes or any type of karaoke machine, a lot of times in the back, the back part, say of the TV, I can go ahead and draw a square right here. But in the back of part of the TV, that most of us say, have seen on the back of the TV, it says, do not open. It says, do not open. Kind of like this right here, to where there's like a compartment where there would be like a few screws that would turn, like, say, kind of clockwise, something like that. There would be a few screws right here. And then that, you would, there would be, like, say, a way to where you can unscrew the compartment right here, and they say that on there is like your risk of electrical shock. And a lot of times, though, that the risk of electrical shock, but wonder a lot of times, though, what does that usually mean? By like let's just say if the device is not plugged in, if it's not plugged in, and then you're like wondering that how is it that I'm going to get zapped if I open the compartment? Like anybody might say that really more likely though that if you open it, then it's possible that you can maybe do some damage to the fuses. If there's like a fuse box or a picture tube or something like that that's inside the TV, or if it's a radio, if you take it apart, then it's possible you can maybe do some damages to the circuits it is. But on the other hand, that you say risk of electrical shock, and I'm thinking that even if the device is unplugged, that we may think though that if you unplug it, I'm like, if we ever ask that question to where if it's connected to a surge protector or a plug, and then let's just say if we unplug it, if we unplug the device immediately, if we're planning on doing any type of maintenance with it, I'm like that why is it that we see a warning sign, or like and if you have a few devices plugged into a surge protector, let's just say if you got plugged in, and then draw like say example right here of a surge protector right here. Like with anybody that may think that I'm like, that TV with all that stuff built in. But then let's just say if you have a lamp, right next to the TV or something like that, you would have about maybe 3 or 4 different things connected to one plug in, and let's just say you got the TV, and then like I say with the speakers though, and then with the I know with most TVs that they would have it to where the antenna, and like anybody may wonder that with antennas nowadays, it seems like that whenever you buy them, that a lot of times that you have to plug in a separate power adapter for power to the antenna. And like with some TVs nowadays, especially for like the flat screens, that they usually say that especially if you're going to be buying a Panasonic or some TV like that, RCA brand, or if it's a Samsung, that type of TV, that more likely that there's possibility that they say that you don't have to worry about the antenna. The antenna is built in. The only thing that you really have to do is worry about is power. But let's just say I'm like about almost every 6 months that they may announce something new, such as that TVs, besides portable TVs, like anybody probably say, anybody more likely will be open to knowing about what's the next product, huh? But on the other hand, that knowing about if we had the speakers right here, and let's just say a number of things that could be built in, but knowing about maybe a built-in battery pack, like anybody that may wonder though, that if all you have to do is maybe pull up a plastic tip off the cover and it starts working, something like that, I'm like, yeah, that if all you have to do is just pull the string and it starts working, something like that, I'm like, anybody probably think, I'm like, yeah, just click the remote. I'm like, click the remote and it's you don't have to worry about plugging it in, just click the remote or something like that. It kind of reminds me of like talking about one of those movies and all about like I am not a tech genius. I don't know how to flip the screen. But anyway, but you have right here is a screen right here. Let's just say that I wonder if they're gonna have that source of technology and knowing about. I would maybe draw some examples, but of course try not to confuse it. But let's just say if you have one screen right here, and let's just say whenever the TV is off, and then you can actually see right through the TV, such as the other side, and let's just say if one side is for like maybe say for extreme high dimensional, and then the reverse side is for like for plain dimensional, something like that. You have two-sided screens here, and like anybody would probably say about two-sided screens, which means that if you turn on the channel on like say the weather channel, and on the other side if somebody wants to watch the the football game or the basketball game or something like that, you have two different sides where people can watch two different programs at the same time. And I could probably say I have not seen any TVs like that so far. There's been only one kind of TV that I know of that you have it to where that it's just one side, but I'm guessing they may already have it. I don't know if they do. I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming that nowadays with technology that they have that kind of TV that can maybe go into a person's pocket. Yeah, go into the pocket and maybe use it, just like say a smartwatch, something like that. But it's like for Google Glass. But anyway, but you have right here as an example right here of me, and let's just say if I would be standing right here in front of the TV, and you have right here is standing in front of the TV. Anybody might think about, I'm like, yeah, usually they usually say that hurts your eyes if you sit too close to the TV, which I can remember whenever I was young. If I was watching my favorite cartoon TV show or something like that in black and white, I would be sitting in front of the TV, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to hurt your eyes if you sit too close. But really, if there's really any type of TVs nowadays, out there to where that if a kid wants to watch their favorite cartoon TV show, and then the next thing you know, let's just say if they are sitting pretty close to the TV, I would say at about this angle right here, is that they sit at least maybe 2 inches. 2 inches, I would say about that far. If I was about that far distance from there would be about maybe all equal about maybe less than 5 feet from the TV screen. That more likely that anybody would probably say that that's not good for your eyes. really, what's in the picture that more likely can irritate your eyes? And if you're staring at the screen for such a long period of time of knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that what type of After Effects do you think? But on the other hand, that I can go ahead and add right here. I'm like, you know, other than working with like with the say the charcoal pencil and stuff, but basically what I can go ahead and do is that yeah, a number of things that maybe we can be watching on TV, you know, besides you see the Weather Channel, or like anybody that may say, I'm like, you know, nowadays with the cable companies that they have, you know, a variety of channels such as Disney Channel, HD, Weather Channel, HD, Discovery Channel, HD, Nicktoons, HD, Nickelodeon, Nick Jr., etc., etc. But let's just say if there was a channel that I can maybe think about that maybe, you know, anybody that may like to watch, you know, I'm like, you know, anybody that may say, I'm like, you know, say, you know, they have all kinds of channels now, you know, maybe up to at least maybe 1,000 choices to knowing about that. Yeah, if you have an idea for a channel that maybe anybody would like to see, you can go ahead and let the cable. I'm like, well, I might just keep silent on that. But I can maybe think of a few ideas that maybe nobody has used yet, but such as, I'm like, that I can go ahead and draw right here. You know, I'll go ahead and draw right here in color is example right here of a hot air balloon. And I'm not saying necessarily that, yeah, so this channel is going to be called the Parks and Recreations Network's city of Pisco, you know, Alabama or somewhere like, yeah, that if I were to make a channel, let's just say that, go ahead and color in I tell anybody here that whatever reason I like balloons whenever I was younger too. I actually like balloons, and I actually wanted to ride in one of these days. And it's like, yeah, that with riding a balloon or riding a hot air balloon, or you have, you know, type of balloons, you know, the balloons that floated, and anybody think, well, what do balloons usually mean? Especially at the birthday parties, I'm like, at the birthday or graduation, you know, something like that. I'm like, what do balloons usually present? And more likely that, I'm like, yeah, they usually present is like, so far, you know, whenever they're filled with helium, and knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that I guess that whenever they float up in the air, more reminds me, it's like, anybody probably say it like, yeah, you put your left thumb up like this, and then just let it, you know, like float here. I'm like, but other than that, I'll go ahead and use right here, you know, use a little bit of red. Use a little bit of red. Let's just say that any channel that more likely that I'm like, yeah, if there's like a vacation channel, or what you call the, you know, I guess that would, you know, they've already got like, you know, channels, I guess, such as the learning channel and then the travel channel, you know, channels like that. But let's just say that if the channel that I have in mind would be is like what you call the you know, that, you know, I can go ahead and call this you know, what you call the Mikhailo. I call it, you know, the Mikhailo Kid, the Mikhailo Kid Network or something like that, the Mikhailo Kid Channel, something like that, Mikhailo Kid, the Mikhailo Kid Channel. And I guess that for right now that sounds like an alright name for a channel, but, you know, for the Mikhailo Kid Channel, basically it's a channel to where you can actually watch, you know, how people build stuff, and then working with wood. I'm like, yeah, that the Mikhailo Kid Channel, the Mikhailo Kid Channel. And I'm sure that anybody probably say about when TV was first, you know, invented. I'm like, yeah, that when TV was first announced, they only had about maybe 3 channels and black and white settings, you know, stuff like that. But on the other hand, too, that knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that like say watch Mickey Mouse, you know, the Three Musketeers, you know, stuff like that, and like talk like you say the DuckTales, or if it's you know, anything to do with the Mighty Ducks, or any, you know, any programs like that. And then nowadays it seems like that, yeah, they giving you more control over what you like to watch on TV, or are they just thinking about, you know, ways to how to make money? But anybody say more likely all the above. But on the other hand, that you have right here is that for the Mikilo Kid channel, is it a channel based on what you call is like basically a channel to where if we were to like buy one of those TiVo type devices, that we would go ahead and have it to where that we would like it nowadays, that they have like which is the Roku television, and you hook if like you say it's built in. Let's just say if you buy a TV that has like say built-in programming, and you can actually have control, you have more control over what you like to watch, such as if your favorite TV show comes on at a certain time, and you have more control. And I can tell anybody here that I'm sure anybody, whenever they were much younger, if technology got any better, then more likely anybody that maybe say it's about the remote control. The remote control, of course, is not built in to the TV or into the radio, but on the other hand, that knowing about that, yeah, a type of remote control that more likely is not going to get lost and stolen very easily. And let's just say that I'm drawing it like this, but let's just say that with the remote control, it has like you see these, like a little, it looks like say glass surface, but then there's like buttons built in. It's like one of those folding, and it's, I guess you can mount it up on the side of the TV. It's held up maybe by a magnet, by electronic magnetizer, sensors or something like that. But basically though, we have right here is like say example right here, a remote control. If you have a circular button right here, or a square button, or a rectangular type button, or maybe if it's a say a Tapatagon type button right here, or maybe a star button right here, like anybody probably think like, yeah, with all the different shapes and stuff like that, and knowing about them, like, yeah, that the same thing goes is like, yeah, that if there would be like a button called a button on a remote control called the Kilo Beta MIT or something like that, the Kilo Beta MIT Blue or something like that. But on the other hand, that knowing about anything that more likely on a remote control, that actually after you're done with it, and it slides up on top of the T, something like that. But anyway, so far as talking about with built-in Genius, the types of things that more likely that I like looking at whenever I was a kid, and especially going into the electronics store, like say a calculator, or knowing about that, oh, that looks cool, that, and then by the time you look at the price tag, it's like, well, I like to have it, but it's too expensive, I don't know how far I would come along if I try to save that kind of money, stuff like that. But on the other hand, that knowing about you have right here is that use a little bit of yellow right there, and like it with anybody that may say that the TV, more likely if you want to go ahead and use maybe the charcoal or just a little bit of gray crayon like right here. But anyway, a little bit with the 5B pencil, just add a little bit of blend right here. But I can remember that whenever if I were to get some practice using pencil art, a lot of times I would actually draw TVs, and anybody may think I'm like, hey, that looks realistic, and knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that anything that you may think that may have on TV later on, such as like any programming, if it's the Mikilo Kid channel or anything like that, then I'm like, yeah, that really the types of entertainment. And so far as the planet's known entertainment, of knowing about that, yeah, for the planet's known entertainment of anything that more likely that you can think about. I'm like, yeah, there may be some things, of course, that are not sold or given, like a sold, that where you can actually where you actually buy them and then actually purchase them online, or like if it's any retail store, or if it's any other type of a shopping network or anything like that, is that basically that anybody that may want, like, hey, that with most of the time with television, that basically that really is it all about making more money each year, or maybe every 6 months, or is it about the fact about learning about how it is, how it works, and basically about the best of entertainment. And like with anybody that may think, I'm like, yeah, that we're talking about 3D, anything that is not in 3D, I don't know. I'm like, anybody would probably say, I don't know if it's sad at all. I'm like, anything that's not in 3D is considered junk to everybody else. I'm like, yeah, that, really. I'm sure anybody probably says, no. I'm like, 3D, 3D is cool, but on your hand, just like a lot of things, a lot of things with built-in this or built-in that, built-in flashlights, stuff like that. I know I'm like, yeah, that, anything with a built-in microscope, or if it's what do you think a calculator? I'm like talking about what else do you think that the calculator should have built in? Maybe a glow in the dark backlight, or flashlight, or if it's battery pack, or if it's anything to do with a stand. I'm like allow the calculator to where it can actually stand like this, and actually have like say and I don't know, anybody may think I'm like they're going to have a calculator to where that you can actually position it like this and it would stay there, and then you can actually move it around like this and actually mount it up on the side of your desk while you're doing your math homework or something like that, and actually mount it somewhere pretty easily. But on your hand too, I used to always think, I'm like, you look at it something like that, electronic wise, and then knowing about that, if you were to be looking at something like that, I used to always a lot of times think it was cool. I'm like, that's cool. I wonder. I'm like, I like to have something like that, but man, it's expensive, stuff like that, or I can't have it right now. But then just thinking about, I'm like, yeah, that I'm sure most of the things that we didn't want whenever we were younger, that quite a few of them would be affordable as of now, as of today, such as a lot of things, such as TV antennas, and then other accessories and microphones, like iPhones and iPads, you name it, other electronic devices, and other kitchen and bathroom supplies that more likely to talk about, say, with built-in. And basically what I can say right here is like for built-in, what does built-in mean? Built-in, basically it means like parts or accessories, parts or pieces of accessories. Parts of pieces of accessories that are included. I'll just say that are included, and that are included, but on your hand, at knowing about, like, that even if it's included, it may still be it may still be separate compared to the device. I guess you can also look at it as like all-in-one. All-in-one, or maybe if it's 3-in-1 or something like that. I'm like, I guess that's basically what it means. Like, built-in, it's like, one. You have right here is just one device. You got one device that has all these and everything. I wonder, at the time, anybody say, I wonder if that's how they picked the name for the Xbox One or something. But anyway, to say for that, for the third edition, you have all these accessories for what it does, especially like on a smartphone or tablet, knowing about, I'm like, all in one. But, and I would say with the ruler, anybody may wonder, I'm like, like talk about, say, with the ruler or anything like that, that more likely they could be built into your electronic notepad, stuff like that. But a lot of times in our class, that they want you to say, go by, say, the measurements like this. Like you have right here is like how tall is the TV, say, with the measuring tape, and then on your hand too, knowing about, like, having you say with the glasses, for like Google Glass, stuff like that. But other than that, talk about, say, with the electronics, and then if there's like what you call, for the electronic marker, they're talking about, like, for the electronic marker, and I talk about a number of things that you can do. If anybody has seen stuff like that, like electronic crayon, electronic pen, you name it, and a lot of stuff electronically. But at the time Warner, I'm like, one thing that more likely anybody has not seen electronically is maybe electronic tiles, like electronic paint and electronic tiles. And more likely anybody probably saying, Mike, if there's going to be anything such as 3D tiles, and knowing about, I'm like, what are you like, and how would you know how to go from step to step, especially if you don't even know where the floor, the difference between the floor and the ground? I'm like, yeah, for 3D tile, I'm like talking about is like if you know the difference between, like, yeah, that you think that the floor is right there and you try to walk somewhere and then that you may wind up losing your balance, whichever it is, but so far with technology, anybody that may say, I'm like, yeah, well, what do you think a door? Well, what do you think a door would have built in? I'm like, anybody probably say, I'm like, yeah, you come up to a certain area of a building or a house, and then the next thing you know, you see a door like this. It's got a built-in doorknob, so all you gotta do is, if it gives you problems, that all you have to do is just slide, and it rotates, vertically or something like that. I'm like, built-in knobs, knobs. If I could maybe explain this, I'm like, yeah, if you have a knob right here where you had to turn it like this right here, you turn the knob like this, but then on your hand too, say built-in knob is basically that you have it to where that you push one end and then it goes into reverse, such as that you can lock it on either side, and on here it has, like, say, a safety key. A safety key, which pretty much is, say, it fits on, say, on a keychain, and if anybody wonders, I'm like, knowing about, for how hard it is, just to lose your key, it is, and knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that a type of key to where I'm like, yeah, if you are worried about misplacing it, maybe a master key or anything like that, I know I'm like, yeah. So far as for built-in key, I'm like, yeah. Because on your hand too, that knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that with most keys, that there's going to be a better source of technology for tracking lost and found keys or anything, that more likely it'd be by, like, say with from how it beeps, push the button and it beeps, the pages, say for that device. But anybody might think about, you got any better ideas for lost and found? Like, talk about, well, it can't grow legs. I'm like wondering about, if you put a pin somewhere, and then after a few seconds, and then it disappears, and it all about is like you go somewhere, like looking at the TVs, and like, oh, I'm gonna write the prices. Oh, okay, where's my pin? Well, where's my pin? Well, that, it didn't grow legs on its own and walk off on its own. Well, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember. I said it over here. But other than that, like, talk about here is talking, say, for the built-in genius, is talking about knowing about the ways of how we use, say, our money, and knowing about, for things that we work hard for, knowing about if it's really called paying our dues, or if it's all the fact about, for being rewarded for, say, for the hard work. I'm knowing about is like, for, say, so far as built-in genius, and knowing about, you just never know about knowing about is like for what you get, for what you got, for knowing about. And I say, anybody may think about, if it's for what you gotta do or knowing about, is to keep it in mind. So first for what you earn, but talk about here, say, for the built-in genius color activity.